Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to Comic Book Club Live. Please give it up for your hosts, Alex and Justin.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Comic Book Club.
Right.
I'm Alex.
I'm Justin.
And that's our man of the booth, Boothman Prime.
Boothman Prime.
Coming in hot here. Coming in hot.
Coming in hot.
That's very loud to my ears.
Yeah, no, you're doing great. You sound great.
Do
you're
I?
strong. It's like you grow more youthful every time I see you.
I'm doing real great. Yeah.
Great.
Real good.
Pete's not here tonight.
No.
So I can finally relax a little bit with a little Cyclops t-shirt.
Oh, a Cyclops shirt.
Yeah, but just keep...
Real quick question, because he texted us at the beginning of the day, like after I was already in work, to say, hey, I'm feeling a little sick, which usually I expect that sort of thing at the beginning of the day, so I know what to expect.
Right.
Not
okay.
midday. I'm just wondering, when did you put on the shirt?
I wear this every day, and only when Pete's not around do I tear it open like some sort of T-shirt magician.
Nice. Well, it's a cool shirt.
Thank you. Yes.
And a cooler character.
Me?
Yes.
Oh, great. You mean Cyclops. That's nice. Alex, one thing we should talk about, I mentioned it a minute ago that you're getting more youthful by the day, but that's actually the opposite of true. You're getting older by the day, and you're about to celebrate another year in the books.
Yes.
What did you turn your eyes over to these people in the crowd?
Oh,
would you look at the crowd?
Hi, crowd. How are you?
So we have a special, your birthday is this week?
It's next week.
Yes, it's in a week.
Right.
Well, but we don't celebrate on your birthday because you might be not here.
Oh.
So we have presents for you from
my
lovely
gosh. Oh, you guys.
John and Aaron and the crowd.
This whole surprising people a week in advance thing.
That's how you surprise people. That's how you surprise people is you do stuff not on the day when it happens.
All right. Well, I already see there's some napkins in here, and I'm pretty wet.
That's why, yep.
So...
sorry.
That's good.
The napkins are for you. The rest of the stuff is for some other people.
That's good.
So,
is there an order to this at all? Or Aaron, eat all the napkins and then it.
I would save the napkins for last because there's a big surprise in there.
Okay.
In the napkins.
All right, great. I'm going to clear this off. I
Napkins
apologize to our guests who's going to have to wait a section. Thank you so much. You are all too kind.
Happy
Thank
birthday.
you. I was not expecting a week before the show.
That's right. That's why I keep my.
Here we go. First of all,
I keep my
unicorn.
I keep my landlord on his toes
unicorn
by paying
paper.
my rents randomly at different days.
Yes, this is great. I love the unicorn paper. My daughter loves unicorns. I'll give her a bunch of ripped.
Do you want me to hold this microphone so you can use two
No.
hands?
I don't need it. Oh, here we go. Okay. Happy birthday, Alex, with a picture of a bear.
That's very cute. It makes that's a drawing.
Nice.
That's a hand-drawn drawing using more than one color, which is not easy to do.
Oh, it's a T-shirt as well.
Nice.
As
very
yours. We could be
gift.
T-shirt friends.
Yeah.
And this, of course, is Chili Down with the Wildfire, with the Wild Gang from Labyrinth, which is awesome. This is great. They've fucking freaked me out, so thanks.
Yeah, great.
I'm going to hide this very deep under my bed.
Stay scared. You can add that to your 3 T-shirt rotation.
Come on, man. I have 4 T-shirts.
Yeah. Batman, Star
Thank
Wars,
you. This is
and
amazing.
This one.
Labyrinth is absolutely one of my favorite movies, so that is an incredible gift, even if the wildfires taking off everybody's heads did upset me a lot.
Alex, definitely keep vamping while you open these presents with one hand. You should definitely do all of these things at once.
What? So this is Star Wars Pozu, which I can only assume is some sort of Japanese food in here.
It's in a shoebox. Maybe that's a stronger clue.
Oh, my God.
Because it is shoes!
Wow. These are Star Wars shoes. This is amazing.
Those are Star Wars themed shoes with Star Wars ships on them.
Yes.
You got your X-Wing.
You got your Reylo. You got your Finpo. All the ships are on there.
Yep. All the relationships.
Yes.
The ultimate way to travel is in a relationship.
Here, should I give you this microphone?
That's what I was trying to say earlier, but you didn't agree. Because I understand stagecraft. I'm a look,
it's a mask of my face?
I was just going to make that joke.
That's weird.
A mask of Alex's face with slightly smaller ears. Just kidding, it's Yoda. That's why that was a mean thing to say.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I also made the same joke. That also is amazing.
It's like fully
That's great.
articulated.
I do feel like I need to take this out and wear this the rest of the show, and our guest will appreciate it.
Definitely. It's
And the last thing is these napkins.
Napkins.
And this is great because I actually did need to get napkins.
That's amazing. That's how it's like the gift of the Magi.
No, this is fantastic. It was the last thing on my shopping list.
And I wrapped those, and let me say, the surprise is one of them's dirty.
With
Guess
what?
which
With
one?
what?
That's the surprise.
Oh! Thank you so much. This is fantastic. You are too kind.
And we promise for those of you who aren't here, who just listen to us open presents week after week, this is the last time we'll be doing it for now. It's so nice, but we're not going to have birthdays for
Here's
years
the thing.
now.
I just want to mention that each of our guests has a birthday coming up every week.
Yeah.
This is the birthday show.
This is the birthday show.
Should we welcome out our guest?
Yes, unless you have any other presents coming out.
Anybody else? Anybody else bring me presents? Okay, next week's my real birthday, so you have time.
Nice.
Thank you very much.
This is your birthday now.
Let's bring out our guest. He is the author of the amazing graphic novel, The Twilight Man. Ladies and gentlemen, Koren Shadmi!
Yeah, come on out.
Come on down.
Right over there.
Hello. Here,
That's
please,
great.
watch out. Thanks so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
What did you bring me?
What?
Oh,
This
this is awkward.
Nothing. Sorry.
That's
right,
good.
that's right.
That's
You brought yourself, and that is good enough. I'm excited to have you here to talk about your book, The Twilight Man. This is all about Rod Serling of the Twilight Zone fame, of other things fame.
Yeah.
What intrigued you about Rod Serling? How did this project kick off?
Well, I'm originally from Israel, so I never actually saw the Twilight Zone on TV. I only saw it when it became available on Netflix here. So,
wow.
I know everybody here grows up seeing it in syndication again and again on television. But I knew what it was from all these like pop culture references, like The Simpsons and all these, even I think Wonder Years had a Twilight Zone episode. Like a lot of places like had references, so I knew what it was. But I was like, oh, this cheesy like 1950s show. And then when it became available, I was like, okay, let me give this a go. And I was just like hooked. I thought it was incredible, and I was really curious about this guy who was the presenter, who later I found out was also the creator / producer / writer, and just kind of this, jack of all trades.
Weird man.
Now,
Yeah.
if there was no Twilight Zone in Israel, was there an anthology series of any sort?
Yeah, there was. I grew up seeing the reboot. So I think it was the 80s reboot, and everything made it to Israel later. So the 80s reboot made it to Israel in the 90s. So I did see that. Yeah, it was very random. Like some old American TV shows did make it. Like Star Trek, the old Star Trek did make it.
And the Wonder Years, obviously.
The Wonder Years did make it.
Popular export, the Wonder
That's
Years.
a weird choice.
There was
to
a
send
lot.
to other countries.
I'm actually surprised that Twilight Zone didn't make it because most of the big ones did. Like even like I Love Lucy and stuff like that was on TV when I was growing up. So it was kind of like everything came in delay.
So you were choosing between doing a Fred Savage book,
Exactly.
and a Rod Serling.
Yeah,
obviously.
that's actually my next book, Fred Savage. Sorry, you blew
Oh,
the
man.
that's
The
right,
Wonder Man.
Yeah, the Wonder Man.
Yes.
You can hear how excited I am.
it's great.
Thanks for blowing up our dreams. So when you were putting together the book, when you were actually researching Rod Serling, it goes through a good chunk of his life. What did you find out about him? What was surprising? What was interesting?
A lot. I mean, there is kind of a parallel between him and a lot of the comic book guys to tie it into comics. The Kirby and all those guys that went to World War II. So he went, served in World War II, and he was a paratrooper. And he just saw a lot of carnage, and he was saw a lot of his friends die in the Philippines, and basically had what they call now PTSD, but back then it was like, oh, you just have, shell shock, take some
Get
sleeping
over it.
pills and
Have some cigarettes. and get over it.
drink it off, be a man. And but basically every night of his life he would wake up with these awful nightmares, and I think that helped fuel the Twilight Zone. So when you learn about his army years, you're really kind of starting to understand this is why the Twilight Zone is so dark, and has this kind of surreal feeling to it. So, I learned about that. I learned about his early days in radio, his rise to during the TV, early days of television. I didn't know much about that. So it was interesting to just find out how TV started, and it started actually in New York, and TV shows were broadcast live. So if you screwed up or someone tripped, like the whole U.S. would see it because everything was live. So
that'd be great.
It's the same way. That's how they film NCIS.
yeah.
Yeah,
it's
they
live.
do it live. They just don't make mistakes.
Yeah. They're just perfect at it. Now, what made a graphic novel the right form for this, though? It's because certainly you wouldn't necessarily. We've talked about a lot of biographies here at the show. We've certainly reviewed a lot of them, had different biographers on, but on its surface, you wouldn't necessarily think that this would be the perfect visual medium for this thing. But what made it the perfect visual medium?
Well, I think first off, you also need to think, are the comic book audience going to be interested in this? And I think there's a lot of crossover. A lot of comic book nerds are really into the Twilight Zone too. So I think a lot of the comic book people would be interested and curious to find out what's the deal with this guy, the man behind the show. There are biographies about him, and they're really thick. So I think a graphic novel is really digestible and a lot easier for people to consume. But I don't know. I mean, the Twilight Zone is very visual, so I wanted to give the book that kind of spin, that visual spin that you feel in the Twilight Zone, that eerie, strangeness, but also for it to be realistic. So it should feel kind of if it's in the 50s or in the 60s, it's kind of has a level of realism. So,
no, did you have any fucked up dreams as you got deeper and deeper into Rod Serling's?
Yeah, I had.
Twilight?
I definitely talking about that. I did have. I woke up one morning and I was telling my wife, you spoke to Rod Serling in my dream tonight, and I don't remember the details, but he wasn't. I don't.
He was
think
hey man, take a couple pounds off and make me look a little nice, okay? I'll haunt you, dude.
Yeah. He had a knife to my throat. No, I don't remember the details, but I do remember he did show. I was so deep into it that he did show up in my dreams a few times. Yeah.
Well, on the same note, given that you didn't grow up watching The Twilight Zone, now that you've read the book, are you an expert? Have you watched every episode? Have you delved in?
Yeah, I've watched. I wouldn't call myself an expert because I have not watched them times enough for me to be an expert. I watched them all, some of them a few times, but I'm not one of those guys that I was I've seen Time Enough at Last 40 times, and I know, the thing that's on the, we had an evening a few weeks ago for the Twilight Zone at SVA, and we were screening episodes, and one of the guys, Nick Parisi, he was a Rod Serling expert, and one of the trucks had a name of a shop Resnick's, and it was Arlen was in the crowd, was also in that evening, and then he's that's a shop from Serling's hometown in Binghamton that was open in the 30s, and I'm not at that level. No,
I mean that seems like a little extra. I don't know how badly you need to know that to really get the mystery there.
I know that the cookbook they're cooking people.
I know that. Wow.
I know that part. I don't want to brag or anything.
Great.
I think I actually only saw the Simpsons episodes.
I was going to say, you just watched the Simpsons episode.
I did. I'm just extrapolating from there.
Good job. What a fan. He's from Binghamton. Interesting, because that's a place of nightmares.
It is?
The town of Binghamton, New York.
I was there actually 3 weeks ago for something called Serling Fest. So there was a 60th, because it's the 60th anniversary for the show, they had a big kind of festival. And it is a little strange, it's a pretty town, but, I don't know.
It's not a beautiful town. I'm from Syracuse, upstate New York, and that whole region has the most gray days of the year, many years in a row.
Yeah.
So I do think that maybe makes you crazy.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying.
What happens at Serling Fest?
These like really intense fans of the show came from all over, from like North Carolina, and from like some came from England, and I'm like, you're coming all the way from England to see Binghamton, New York? Like it seems like a little strange.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
But everybody was like super nice, and they I sold out the book, so it was, very
That's great.
Yeah.
Do people come dressed in costumes?
No, sadly, no. I was hoping for like,
You mean a suit?
Yeah, a suit and a tie. There was like
People were dressed like real slobs.
Wow, that's crazy.
yeah.
I can't believe you pulled it off. I was wearing a Serling cosplay at my wedding.
Nice. Yeah.
I didn't tell my wife.
Did you have a
that.
cigarette?
Consider, if you will, you marry me.
Yeah, exactly. And what a Twilight Zone episode we've been on. Yes, I would secretly smoke afterwards and late at night.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you watched the new Twilight Zone?
I did. I watched about.
Ooh, interesting.
Oh.
Yeah, I watched
Interesting.
about
There's no
like
shame.
3 or 4 episodes, and then like I was like, my wife was like, "Let's keep watching." I was like, "No, I'm not gonna keep watching this." I thought it was so bad. Like,
Really?
I just really don't like it.
What did you think in particular was bad?
It's
And
just.
I guess we won't be sealing Twilight Man to Jordan Peele.
Yeah, no. I mean, yeah, I'm just gonna be honest. I didn't like it. It kind of tries to be loyal to the original show, but because of that, I think it extra doesn't work. I think that Black Mirror is a much better reboot of the Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
Like, you need to set it in the 21st century. It has to deal with one of the episodes the woman deals with. She has like this video camera that takes her back in time, and it's like the video camera. Like what is this? Like
does
the
that even
90s?
mean?
Like
Yeah.
it's just I don't know. I
Betamax.
didn't like it.
They were too long. I watched a bunch
They
of
are
them,
long, yeah.
and they were all like 45 minutes, an hour, which sort of felt like there's a certain. Not that the Twilight Zone is supposed to be cagey, I feel like most of the time. Like, it is very straightforward in terms of here's the concept, you're following
Yeah.
it. It's not all about like this mind-blowing twist.
And it's
all the
mostly
time.
half an hour. Most of them are
Exactly.
only, or 20-something minutes.
Yeah,
And,
the length, when you go past half an hour, I think it lets you get ahead of it.
Yeah, I think that's also part of the problem.
I just feel like, to your point about like they tried to mimic the old style, I think that's where they got off track, because like that type of storytelling we're
It doesn't
faster
work
now.
anymore,
Yeah,
yeah.
we don't save the twist for the last second.
We
really,
watched
like that, and
I screened when I had the Twilight Zone episode. The Twilight Zone evening. The episode I screened was Eye of the Beholder, which is one of the most classic episode with the pig people. And
yes,
then
yes.
And there's a scene where they like unwrap her face from all the bandages, and it lasts for like a minute. And afterwards, my wife was like, "I was having a panic attack when they were like unwrapping. It just
That's
took
so
forever, And so I think it's just not. Some of the stuff is not,
I love the idea that now we dread the Twilight Zone because it's so slow. And back then it was like, wait, she's beautiful? She was ugly. She was supposed to be ugly and she's beautiful. Fuck. And now it's like, why is she taking so long with the reveal?
That's a horrifying part. Yeah.
Yeah. You know who they should get to remake the Twilight Zone is the guys who do Fast and the Furious.
Oh, yeah,
That'd be
dude.
pretty sweet.
Those guys really know how to hold on to information
Well,
for
that's what I'm
over
saying.
time.
Like, dude is like, finally, I'm alone to be in a library. Car drives to the library. He's like, get in, fucker. We're gonna fight.
Yeah, that's good. Fuck you! I'm gonna break your glasses right now.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's the book. You love books.
Here's
Later.
the thing. Half an hour. Why do you need that? 30 seconds. Stops.
Exactly. The
Get it all
Twilight.
across.
Or Vin Diesel narrating the new Twilight Zone.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
I
good.
would love that. And you could call it the Twilight Pizzone.
Yeah, that's good. Sponsored by failed pizza place. Pizza Hut.
Exactly. Very old Pizza Hut
Or some
products.
energy drink, I feel like.
Yeah.
Would be sponsored.
Oh, is that? Yeah.
I
that's
mean, no,
good.
I'm saying that if Vin Diesel was
Right.
doing
The
be
bandage
like-
one could be sponsored by Monster Energy.
exactly, or Bang, or one of
Yeah,
those.
whatever
Bang.
it is.
Yeah,
Whatever
yeah.
it is, we're going to make a lot
Yeah,
of money
yeah.
off of it.
What do you drink? Bang?
I don't. I just see ads for it, and I'm like, this is really funny.
This is real? Bang?
Bang. Yeah, I think
Bang's a
one
real
of
drink?
them. Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, I guess so.
Bang.
The book is available now.
It is. Yeah.
All right. Where can you pick it up? Anywhere?
Anywhere, the comic book shops hopefully have it stocked up, and
in the Twilight Zone, obviously,
in the Twilight
it's very
Zone.
popular there.
Yeah.
It's like
But
being big in Japan.
it is available.
Cool. So the Twilight Man, check that out. And we're going to move on with our next section, which we like to call the stack.
Yeah, we do. They're over
Comics?
there.
Ooh, they're over there. He's hiding them.
There you go.
There we go.
Nice. Stashed
All
them.
right. I have the stack. We're going to talk about a couple of books that came out this week and chat about that. First one we're going to talk about is Justice League number 34 from DC Comics. Pass it over to you if you want to take a look over there. This is the end of the Justice League Doom War, which is the huge storyline that they've been building up to the entire time. The Justice League is pushing justice in the universe.
They love justice.
The Legion of Doom is pushing doom in the universe.
Checks out.
And it all comes down to this. Every single good guy in the multiverse versus every single bad guy in the multiverse. Should we talk about the big spoiler at the end here?
That Doom wins?
Doom wins.
Yeah. The end.
The end. That's it. That's the last comic. So
Get a
thank
life.
you so much for coming to our show. We had a good run.
We've done our service. And we lost because we've been pushing justice too.
What do you think about the storyline and how do you think about how it wrapped up?
I mean, it is wildly complicated what's going on. It's a mythical figure that created the multiverse named Perpetua. She had 3 sons, the Monitor, the Anti-Monitor, and another dude. And they...
who's like a big troll elf.
A lot of them are sort of larger
Troll elves.
Back then, it was a hardier time, so you had to be like sort of stockier. It's weird because she's very stretched out.
She is. She's very tall. They're very short.
Huh. You never know.
It's probably the whole eat the fat, eat the lean thing.
Tell me more. This is your diet scam, right?
Yeah.
Your pills that...
Yes, my wife eats all the fat. I only eat the lean, and between the two of us, we lick the platter clean.
Seems like a prank. Doesn't seem nice.
The name of the diet is Lick That Platter.
Wow, you guys need silverware. And you're going to love these napkins as far as a way to get ahead of your technology.
Very excited.
Anyway, all the heroes have gathered together. There's some nth metal stuff involved here. They've been gathering these objects from different time periods, different heroes. Starman plays a huge role. You know I'm psyched about that.
Yeah, man. All the Starmans.
All the Starmen. And they get it all together, and because a hawk girl is just a little too distracted with revenge, it all fucks up.
Classic Hawk Girl.
Did you realize that the cover says Doom wins? So it's like it's kind of a spoiler
You know what?
cover.
I'll tell you what. That's why we didn't feel too bad spoiling it.
Okay, yeah, right.
I'll tell you, that's not a great editorial move.
Nope.
Yeah.
They've been doing that. We talked about that last week a little bit, too. It's one of my least favorite things when the cover of a book is like, and here's the last page of the book.
Yeah.
But to be fair, there are other things that happen in here, I guess.
Many other things.
Yeah.
It's also, there's just, and this is not a knock against it because I actually think it's great, but there's just the specifics of all the things. Lex Luthor has gone through this change where he died and came back as this god, and he's wearing Martian Manhunter as a suit, basically.
Yeah.
Who he murdered him, but he's probably not going to be dead, and he's wearing a Martian Manhunter suit. And that's just a stated thing that's happening in this car.
That's what you're doing with Pete, right?
Yes, all these clothes are made of peat. Ironically, I made this Cyclops t-shirt out of peat. As
That'll
the
show
ultimate burn.
Yeah, this is big. This is complicated. Certainly when you try to think about it in terms of like, I always think about Death of Superman, which I've read a couple of times. When you read through it, mostly...
Whoa, okay. Got time on your hands.
yeah, just, bragging a little bit. When you read that book, mostly it's a good story. It's well laid out, particularly the last issue when Superman dies is very big and very powerful. But there's things in there where it's like, oh, right, I kind of remember when Lex Luthor was a big guy with a red beard. And he was dating Supergirl, who was made out of goo and not actually Supergirl.
Yeah.
Kind of remember that.
I don't remember that stuff.
Right, but there's stuff in that in the middle, and it brings it to a crashing halt when you get to that. And I feel like it's the same thing with this sort of thing, where it's like, there's so much shit going on in here. I don't even know how this is going to hold up in a month, let alone 10 years from now.
Well, yeah, I think that's true. But even back then, the pace of storytelling we were talking about with the Twilight Zone, the pace of storytelling was just slower. So you could be like sort of linger with Lex Luthor with a beard. Bibbo gets a lot of hang time in the Death of Superman, and that's just a random man who's like, I love Superman. Yeah. I'm gonna pull some rubble off people. And in this, it's so fast. There's so much happening. I think it would be very hard to pick up an issue and understand it even years from now. Because like you said, you're aging.
Later on.
Yeah.
What?
Nothing. Go ahead.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. You're going to have to speak up.
Nice. But I do like. It sounds like we're being critical, but I do like this story.
I agree. It's very dense. There's a ton of things going on, but at least it's going for something. At least it's changing the way the DC multiverse works. It's changing the mythology where people are so tentative about this sort of thing. They hit the same storytelling modes over and over and over again, and this is actually feeling like it's pushing things forward.
And maybe Doom winning's going to be fine.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with Doom winning.
Yeah.
There you go.
There it is.
Let's move on to a Marvel comic book, Spider-Man #2 from Marvel Comics. Very excited about this new character just introduced in issue 1, of course. He was not bitten by a radioactive spider. He's just the son of a Spider-Man.
But he is still a Spider-Man in his
Yes,
own
he
right.
is. So this is by J.J. Abrams and his son, Henry Abrams, I want to say,
really.
Who wrote the book together. Sarah Bocelli is on art, which is fantastic, of course. And this is Spider-Man's son. This is a older, more upset Peter Parker, who is mostly absent from his son's life. His son figures out that he has spider powers.
Well, what happened was a sort of corpse robot named Cadaverous murdered Mary Jane, and Peter Parker was sad.
Yes.
Rightly so. And he then just gave up on being a father to his son, and his son is mad at him, but still lives with Aunt May, who is somehow still alive.
Is he missing a hand here?
He is.
Yes. Cadaverous broke off or ruined his hand or something like that. So Spider-Man has a hook hand.
Okay.
It's a whole Peter Pan thing, I'm sure.
Interesting.
The art in this is great.
He also looks a little bit like Keanu Reeves, which is confusing to me.
It is confusing. And I'll tell you what, if you flip back a couple more pages, new Spider-Man, child Spider-Man rescues a dude, and I think this is a cameo of that dude from Heroes.
It's Greg Brunberg.
Fuck that guy. Why does he keep showing up places?
He was in kindergarten with J.J. Abrams.
Yeah, I know, but so?
I don't know. You be in kindergarten with J.J. Abrams.
What, is it a big formative time for JJ?
I guess so.
This guy gets to be in Star Wars, he gets to be in all this JJ stuff, and he's done into this book too.
Yeah, here, I'm telling you what, something happened in kindergarten there where his kindergarten teacher, J.J. Abrams, was like...
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right, of course.
Famously so.
That's what happens in Hollywood. You know?
That's how Hollywood works.
Yeah,
Alex,
I know it works. You don't need to tell me.
Do you? I don't think you do.
It's going to change a little bit of the accent that I was going to do in this made-up story, but let's keep going with it. So he probably went up to J.J. Abrams and was like, you tell me what's in this box. Do you know what's in this box here? And J.J. Abrams was like, I don't know, and that's magical. And then he made every movie around that.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. We owe the Star Wars rejuvenation to Arnold Schwarzenegger.
What?
I don't know.
It's a little, I'm surprised how much the son, so this book written by a father and son team, the son hates the father so hard.
Hates the father so much for him. He's like, you're always gone on your business trips, Dad.
You know what my theory is? Is probably like J.J. Abrams is like, I'm too busy. My assistant's going to write this with you. And then the son is like, oh my God, Dad, I hate you. And maybe that's what happened, yeah.
If I were JJ, I would read it through before I sent it off to be published, though, because it looks weird.
It does look weird. To be fair, Henry Abrams is like in his 20s, so it's not like he's like, I'm 12, I'm writing a comic book.
What movie did he grow up in?
Lord of the Rings.
Oh, cool. Yes, very good.
We're eating meat tonight, boys, he would always say.
Yeah. It is weird how much new, I'm assuming his name is Ben. I think Ben Parker here hates his dad, burns the Spider-Man costume. Then a girl shows up to be like, let's go be heroes together. And he's just mad because he burned the Spider-Man.
Right. And the girl is like, I'm going to dress up almost exactly like Black Cat.
Yeah.
Basically. I don't know. The standout for me right now is Sarah Bocelli's art on this.
Yes, definitely. And the teen angst, or 20s angst.
Yeah, teen angst is good. I need to see a little bit more of this story and where this is going, frankly.
Yeah.
Because it was very surprising with the first issue, the direction they went in. The fact that they seem to be continuing this alternate future is interesting. I don't know the deal with Cadaverous. It doesn't seem like a very Spider-Man villain to me at the current time. But again,
He looks like the Dr. Smith from the Lost in Space movie.
right. It feels like there's a twist with him. He's going to
You
be
floated right past that, but that was a horrible reference to me. Let me just not to dwell on this, but if I brought a friend of mine from my kindergarten to
Sure.
this show and was like, "Hey, don't worry about him. He's just here with me all the time," wouldn't you be like, "Let it go, dude"?
No, I would support you.
Oh,
You
you
and
support
your
me?
friend.
What about my friend that doesn't contribute
No, your friend
much?
needs to get the fuck out of here.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Let's move on and talk about Captain America number 15, also from Marvel Comics. How are you feeling about this book, Justin?
So Captain America was Pete talks about this a lot, how much he hates that Captain America was an alternate version of him, was revealed by in Nick Spencer's run to be this horrible Hydra leader, sort of secret Nazi, all this.
I heard about that.
You heard about it, a lot of angry. I thought it was an interesting story. It was great. Repositioned Captain America, and this is sort of dealing with the aftermath. He was in jail for a lot of this run so far. Now he's working with a team of women who the Daughters of the Revolution, I think is their name, and they are just going after targets that are out in the world.
So wait, so is he? How did they solve that? That he's a Hydra agent? No, he's not a Hydra agent anymore.
There was another Captain America, the real Captain America, I guess.
The Captain Steve Rogers, back in the day, a cosmic cube was used to change Steve Rogers' life. So it was the real. That was the big angry point. It wasn't a clone. It was the real Captain America who just grew up in being affected by fascism, basically, to be a bad guy. And they sort of split the characters in two. The Cosmic Cube went back and changed it. So now this actual Nazi Captain America still exists in the Marvel universe.
Right, he's just in prison currently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they created a new villain, basically.
Right. They created a new villain who's an evil Captain America,
nice
but the
save.
rest of the world is like, that seems a little ridiculous to me. It probably is just one Captain America and they're all faking it. Yeah. So people seem very disillusioned in the concept of Captain America.
They're disillusioned in the concept of America, Captain.
Yes, there you go. Which is a very potent metaphor. So I think that's all good. You know, that's a good setup there. There's a lot going on in this book. I think the art is very good. It's very layered. This, almost more than anything, feels like a book that is going to be better to read in trade to me.
Well, I think it just feels like it's waiting. I'm waiting for something to happen. It feels like it's a little bit like getting little bits and pieces of the story when I want to hear, like, I want to see the big bang where it's like, okay.
All the character stuff is good throughout. Ta-Nehisi Coates is doing a fantastic job writing it. As I mentioned, it is a very good metaphor there, but at the same time, it's moving so slowly, it's tough to see any plot momentum.
Yeah, and you sort of want him to either like become nomad and travel around to like rediscover America like he did back in the 70s or whatever, or fully commit to being Captain America. He's sort of in this middle ground where he's wearing the old SHIELD uniform that has like the stripes on his chest, and it's like a middle ground. And like,
yeah. If I wanted to see people stand around and talk about what America means today, I'd go to Twitter.
Wow. And for those of you that aren't here, Alex did a strong take to the audience on that. Full neck extension, eyes open, glasses popped off his head like a comic book.
I'm wearing that Yoda mask right now.
That's true.
My
Let's
new
not
shoes
forget.
and dressed entirely in napkins.
Let's not forget he is wearing the Yoda mask and has been the entire show and may never take it off.
Yeah.
This is like, it's like the Yoda mask is your version of the Joker makeup from the movie The Joker.
When you bring me out, introduce me as Yoda.
That's a very cute voice.
Hold on, wait. Bring me out. Introduce Yoda, you will. Never mind.
That's good.
I don't know. I gave up.
The attempt is good. You know what we'll do is we'll re-record you doing it right afterwards, and we'll just drop it in seamlessly.
Weave it in. We do a lot of very heavy editing on the show. So
I've done my Yoda impressions, but I'm not going to do it here.
Oh, it felt like you were about to just stunt on Alex. You were about to challenge Alex.
No.
Yoda off.
Yoda off.
2 Yodas enter, 1 Yoda leave.
No.
You got so close.
So
That
close.
is
All right,
very
we'll see if we can get him to do it. That is it for the stack.
Hilarious.
We are going to move on with our next section, which is my favorite section because y'all make it up. It is your audience questions. For that, we're going to come out to you, and we've got nothing for you today because Pete takes care of basically everything on this show.
I know we make fun of him being the star of trivia, but he is the star of bringing the stuff we give away, which is stupid of us.
Right. I've got some shoes to give away.
That's fucked up.
Ouch.
I have a feeling we could get a napkin out to everybody who has a question.
All right. You, sir, what's your name? What's your question?
My name is Kevin, and certainly Twilight Zone has had a huge impact and legacy, throughout the history of television. For example, have you ever seen an anthology series since that wasn't heavily indebted, to that show in particular? What are some of the aspects of, that legacy that, intrigue you?
Well, the book itself actually, follows the life of Rod Serling until his death. So it kind of ends in 1975. And the sad thing was that he didn't really get to see the crazy legacy that, the influence. Talking about J.J. Abrams, he's like a number one fan of Rod Serling. And there was a show that Serling, I think, tried to make or made one season called The Lost People. The New People, and it's a bunch of people crash on an island, and they trying to create a new civilization, and so there's many things, and the sad thing was that he really didn't get to see it. He didn't really get to see the Twilight Zone become a cult show. He kind of he thought he made this hokey show, and he really wanted to be like this esteemed writer. Or playwright, and I think that's maybe the tragic side of it. But yeah, you still see it till today, and like I mentioned, Black Mirror is super indebted to it, and there was even an episode of Black Mirror that was kind of winking towards Night Gallery. I don't know if you saw that, but
it was called the Black Museum.
Yes, and even finding out that Planet of the Apes was co-written by Rod Serling, and then there's so many Planet of the Apes, but it really goes beyond that. It's there's so much stuff out there. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that about Planet of the Apes, but it checks out with the reveal at the end.
Yeah, the end. Yeah, there's a big argument about who did this. Did he write the ending or he didn't write the ending? But for what I can tell, he actually, of course, did write the ending.
It's like a signature Rod Serling
ending.
Yeah, crazy
a twist ending. Yeah.
The other dude's like, I do twists too. I'm a random person.
Yeah. It's again reminds me of The Simpsons, where Homer walks out of the theater and he's like, "I can't believe it was Earth all along," and everybody's
he's like, ah, yeah.
Good show. Check out The Simpsons. Let's get the next question. You, sir, what's your name? What's your question?
Hi, my name is Kier, and with Twilight Zone being an anthology series, are there any comics that you have read, or any of you guys that have read, that follow that same pattern of horror, sci-fi anthology series that could match well with Twilight Zone?
Well, we talk about this book a lot, and I'm sure I'm stealing the answer from Alex, but Ice Cream Man from Image, it's been running for, I think it's 15 issues now.
Yeah, it's around there.
Is a great Twilight Zone sort of analog. It's super horrifying. There's a loose connection with the main character, Ice Cream Man. Or he's not the main character, he's a recurring character. But they are standalone stories that are truly horrifying. One of the scariest comics I think we've ever read. And it definitely feels like in the spirit of Rod Serling.
Yeah, it's the same sort of thing where, as Justin mentioned, each issue is its own standalone horror story. There's always something very emotionally targeted towards the main character, which is what I think puts it more in line with Twilight Zone than anything else. But at the same time, it definitely airs more horror, where there's giant bugs crawling all over people and blood and gore, but not in a slasher sense, more in whatever is going to be worst for whatever the character is feeling, that's what they physically see, courtesy of this character, the Ice Cream Man, that pops in and out of the stories.
The current run of Incredible Hulk, I feel like, it's not an anthology, but the way the storytelling, it sort of starts in different places in each issue, and I think that sort of feels a little Twilight Zone-y in that way.
Particularly the first couple of issues, it was Immortal Hulk, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The first couple of issues were standalone before it started to go very heavily serial. And same sort of thing. That to me felt a little more Tales from the Crypt-y almost.
Yeah.
Kind of, I guess. Or
less like laughing weird man
yeah.
than
Yeah.
than
Here,
that.
yeah, there wasn't anybody making puns. There
I also
was a
feel like
skull.
Tales from the Crypt. I always feel like those episodes were like sort of a fuck around. Like the Crypt would be like,
Sure.
check out this story. A topless woman is in it. And it's like, okay, I don't know what's the horror you're doing here.
I mean, listen, when you're early teen, and you're in a hotel room by yourself while your parents have gone out and you're on vacation, Tales from the Crypt is pretty good.
Wow, a little window inside the mind of Alex Salvin.
I'm just saying.
Great.
We've all had that experience.
No, not necessarily.
Do you have an answer for that one? Any comics that come to mind that are Twilight Zone?
No, I don't think I have a good answer. I
Yours
mean,
would be a good. Yours feels.
Yeah,
that way.
yeah, it's vaguely related. Yeah.
I think we have another question over here.
Yeah.
What's your name? What's your question?
Jesus Christ. Name's Caesar.
We get that.
I was coming here, I'm going to say a question that had nothing to do with Twilight Zone.
That's okay.
Now I'm like, damn, I should have a question.
No,
go ahead.
ask the
Okay.
random question.
A
That's
random
very Twilight
question.
Zone.
Oh, first off, happy birthday, sir.
It's nice. It's a little early.
Good one.
It's a little early.
Myself.
That's good.
That's good enough.
This question is the ultimate gift.
What? Actually, it's comic book related and kind of Halloween related. Are they? Do you know anything about any reboot of the Swamp Thing? Because you guys probably remember, of course, the movie with Adrian Barbeau and the Hokey Swamp and all that. But I remember when it first came out, the first story in one of the DC Comics anthology series. That was a beautiful. You've read the story, of course. It's a beautiful story, well written, well drawn, and it was classic. I liked the series whenever I caught it when I was a kid. I'm aging myself. And then the movie came out. I didn't bother to see it. I saw it on TV, and I thought, yeah, this is dumb. Charming, but dumb. And I'm thinking, is anyone planning to do a remake of it and then actually base it on the original storyline? I mean, the original.
So there was a Swamp Thing series on DC Universe that just played for a couple of weeks, and that was more serialized. It was based a little bit on the Alan Moore stuff, but it also worked in some of the more modern stuff as well. It was pretty schlocky, if anybody checked it out. The first episode I thought was bad, like straight up bad. It did get to a place where there was some pretty gross kills that were super fun if you're into horror stuff. It's still pretty cheap looking, pretty dumb, but it started to feel a little, it leaned into the B-movie nature of it by about episode 3. But there was a ton of stuff that went on behind the scenes that I don't think we'll ever find out exactly what happened, but there seemed to be production issues. There were some money issues. I actually did some digging into it for work, for my day job, and ended up talking a little bit to certain boards down in, I want to say, it wasn't Louisiana. I think they were filming it in Georgia, though I could be wrong about that.
Checks out.
But there were certain tax credits that they were promised or thought they were going to get that they did not get. So they ended up millions of dollars short and ended up shutting down the production 3 episodes before it was supposed to end. Wow. So that's a long way of saying there was a really messed up process in terms of the show. It got canceled. It's the only thing on DC Universe that's gotten canceled. So, yeah, it got canceled before it even aired for kind of good reasons. But I think because of all that behind the scenes stuff, I don't think they're going to reboot it anytime soon. That said, I could see them doing something like what they did with Constantine, where that show got canceled, and then they folded certain elements into the CW shows or other shows. The Swamp Thing, the guy who played Swamp Thing, I'm blanking on his name, but it's the same guy who played Jason in the more recent movies, Derek Mears, is that right? Something like that. And he was actually pretty good. Like, that effect was good. The suit was good. So I could see them being like, we'll just take it and move it over here, and that's what we'll do. But in terms of an anthology series, I think that's out of the realm of possibility for at least a couple of years. We had another question over here. Oh.
No, I just wanted to mention that when I found out about Swamp Thing, I cringed when I found out that if they were going to do those, if it was going to be full 13 episodes, the last episode was going to hint of a possibility of a Justice League Dark kind of thing. And I was like, why Warner Brothers? Why don't you make a Justice League Dark?
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't end up going for that. Instead, they finally brought in, I never pronounced his name right, but Woodrew.
Yeah, everyone's favorite character.
Yeah, they were like, here's Woodrew. And I was like,
He's
all right,
like Swamp
that's
Thing,
fine.
but he's just a treat.
It's pretty cool. We see a question over here. Come on up. What's your name? What's your question?
My name is Arlen Schumer. Hey, Koren.
Hey, how's it going?
Long time no see. So Rod Serling has said that all he ever wanted to be remembered as was as a writer. So my question to you, having studied his work now and probably seen a lot of his plays, not only just Twilight Zone, in the end, is Rod Serling just a great television writer, or did he make it as a great writer?
I mean, yeah, I think he is a great writer because he wrote these incredible, basically, you could say they're plays for television, and they were very potent. They were ahead of their time. And, just saying, well, it was set on TV doesn't necessarily make it any less than an off-Broadway or a Broadway show. So no, I think he definitely was a great writer, and he was kind of came in and there was time in his life where he was more focused, and then there were times where I think towards the end of the Twilight Zone and after the Twilight Zone where he kind of maybe his writing kind of came out of focus and became less concise. Because I remember watching one of the movies that he wrote. I forget which one it is, but it's about a bomb scare or something like that. I forget the name of it.
Speed?
No, yeah, basically. No, but...
Pirates of the Caribbean?
Yeah, that's the one. But he would go into these, you have his characters go into these, long, heavy speeches, and I'm like, I had to fast forward some of that stuff. So I think, everybody has good stuff and bad, not so good stuff, but he's made some beautiful pieces of television history, basically.
What are his theatrical plays like?
His what?
His theatrical plays?
They're really good. They actually, a lot of them were turned into movies. There's one called Requiem for a Heavyweight that you can still watch.
Yes.
Yeah, you can still watch it. I think someone has it on YouTube, and then it was remade as a movie, and it has Cassius Clay at the beginning, which is really strange. So he has some really good stuff. So the famous ones are really good. Yeah,
Cool.
That's cool.
All right. Real quick, any other questions? Another one over here. What's your name? What's your question?
I'm John. So Captain America, written by Ta-Nehisi Coates. I think we can fairly say he's rebooted Black Panther, but is probably best known for his work in The Atlantic, which isn't really where you'd expect comic book writers to come from. What kind of heavyweight writers stroke thinkers would you like to see reboot a franchise, and which franchise?
Interesting. A literary star. Coming in. I mean, obviously we're very well read.
Yes.
Outside of comic books.
I'd love to see Tom Clancy.
That's good, yeah. Huge, a lot of work in The Atlantic.
Yes. I love his articles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see, who are literary heavyweights these days? Malcolm Gladwell? Not a great fiction writer. Non-fiction comic book.
Tipping point.
Yeah. A good villain. Just a series of numbers for the villains.
Yes.
I know that Margaret Atwood was doing and I heard that wasn't that good, right? Did you read that?
What did you...
No, Margaret Atwood, wasn't she doing... No, I'm getting confused.
No, she did a comic book.
She did, didn't she?
She did a comic book for Dark Horse, I want to say.
Yeah.
That was pretty weird. We reviewed the first issue of it.
Yeah.
But good.
Yeah, it was good. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. This is not a literary person, but the first person that came to mind when you said this is Ava DuVernay. Just because she's working with Tom King right now on the New Gods movie.
Yeah.
bring her in. Let her take over the comic books. I mean, I know they have their own take, but they're going to do a Crisis shortly and wipe all of DC continuity clean anyway. So bring her in, have her and Tom King take over New Gods comic books, do their own take on it. I think that would be awesome.
That would be very cool.
Yeah.
That's a great answer.
Who would you want to see on that same realm? Not necessarily a literary person, but somebody that's more high-minded that hasn't necessarily been involved.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, we've definitely
Yes.
covered him. I think he has a lot of good takes.
Yeah. I would love to see him do a comic book.
I dare anyone to translate what you just said into that microphone. I couldn't hear a single thing you said.
It would be funny, actually, if his superhero name was the Tuber, and people were like, "You're the Tuber, right?" And he'd be like, "I'm not the Tuber."
That's good. Keep his secret identity.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be pretty funny.
Sorry, did you ask a high-minded question a minute ago?
We took it low real fast.
Yeah, before you slipped
It's
into
his fault. It's his fault. He did this.
yeah.
It's our guest's fault. Do you have anybody like that? Anybody like somebody who has been outside of comics that you'd like to see brought in?
No. I'm blanking
Who's
out.
outside of comics?
Everybody's
anymore?
in
Nobody?
comics now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Everybody's inside of comics except for Ava DuVernay. Tarantino.
Yeah, Tarantino.
Yeah,
He
sure.
he's about to finish his final movie, so maybe he can move into comic books and
Right.
make an artist draw a bunch of feet.
Didn't there was a talk that was a talk that he would do a Star Wars, or he was joking around? Or
Star Trek.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It
he's still
goes
supposed
show
to do
what-
that. It's supposed to be an R-rated Star Trek movie.
That's funny. I'd watch that. Yeah.
Sure.
But he's down? He said he's only ever going to make 10 movies, right? And isn't the next one his last one? And he's going to.
That's what he says.
Star
He's
Trek.
going to write books after that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Comic
Yeah.
books, maybe?
I mean, what an easy bridge that would be.
Yeah. He has a very comic book sensibility, actually.
Yeah. You want to see some Tom Hanks comic books?
Sure.
He's a high-minded literary figure.
What would you
right?
want him on? What superhero title would you want Tom Hanks on?
Bosom Buddies? Is that
I really like what Marvel is doing with that, but I feel like mostly they've messed up the continuity at this point.
Superman's best friend. You know,
yeah, he could
he
do
would be
that.
good at that.
Yes.
All American comics.
Great question.
Yeah.
Great answers.
Just definitely great answers.
And that's it for your audience questions.
Yeah.
All right. Now, guys, unfortunately, this is the point of the show where we usually do trivia, but as we mentioned, Pete takes care of everything.
Pete is the star of trivia, and
Yes.
when the star of like a Broadway show doesn't show up, the show goes dark.
That's true. There's no such thing as understudies.
We don't have Pete doesn't have an understudy. Who would understudy Pete?
Yeah.
Doesn't exist.
I don't know. Is there like a ball of angry fuzz somewhere or something?
We should get understudies for each of us. Why don't we each bring in a kindergarten friend who can sit backstage
I'm on it,
and just
man.
wait to come out?
Absolutely.
You have a lot of kindergarten friends, right?
My main kindergarten friend is Greg Grunberg.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Me and J.J. Abrams went to kindergarten.
Oh, you went to kindergarten in kindergarten
I'm
camp as well.
not doing as well.
Actually, this reminds me. I had a friend that grew up in Hollywood, and he was like in high school with Lou Ferrigno's daughter. So that's kind of a
Really?
funny, yeah. So
Yeah,
he was
Lou
like,
Ferrigno's daughter.
yeah, and she was like real big and
Really?
yeah.
She-Hulk,
yeah.
Oh, there we go. We
So
cast it.
I just had that. I mean, I didn't grow up in Hollywood, so I have no good story. So I'm telling
Yeah.
a friend
No,
story.
neither do I.
No
Other
connection.
than Greg, of course. Little Greggy.
Yeah, cool.
As we all know, tomorrow is New Comic Book Day. We recommend you go to Midtown Comics because they've been nice enough to sponsor the show. Justin.
What to look forward to tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll tell you what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to Marauders #1 is coming out from
yeah.
Marvel Comics. This is the first in the rebooted X-Men line that is not by Jonathan Hickman. So it's going to be a real test of the pudding.
Excuse me? Test of the pudding, you said.
I'm definitely mixing up two expressions. I don't know which ones, though.
Do you think you're British or something? Wait,
Proof is in the
British?
pudding. Proof is in the pudding. That's not applicable here. You know what?
It's a real test of the pudding, is what you're saying.
Pete's sickness has definitely seeped on me, so we're going to wrap this up here. But I'm excited to see whether all of the things that Jonathan Hickman has set up in these issues of X-Men pan out when another writer takes them on. We are going to have a review of that in our Stack podcast, which rolls out in the Comic Book Club live feed, as well as its own Stack feed every Wednesday at 9 a.m., Justin, what are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to Ascender number 6 from Image Comics. This is a series that was Descender for a long time about robots that destroy a bunch of humans in space. And it has totally changed in this new series, Ascender, and it's about the rise of magic and robots existing at the same time and how that affects the characters. And it's in the portion of the story where they're sort of gathering everyone together after they've faced this cataclysm, and it's great.
Yeah,
Fantastic
such a good
art.
book.
Yeah.
Koren, plug your stuff. What should people check out?
I would just mention my stuff
Yeah,
because
sure.
I thought you were going to ask me to talk about
No. Don't worry about it. Just plug your
upcoming
own stuff.
superhero comics. But so yeah, I have the new book out. Rod Serling. It's called The Twilight Man. Rod Serling, The Birth of Television. And you can find out my other books online on KorenShadmi.com. And I also had one other graphic novel came out this year called Highwayman. So if you like sci-fi, you might like that one. So yeah.
What is that? Tell us what that's about.
That is about a man who cannot die, and he's trying to figure out what is the reason for his immortality. And it kind of goes into big leaps into the future. So there's maybe sometimes 100 or 200 years between episodes. So
Cool.
it's kind of like Highlander without the heads being decapitated and Sean Connery with rouge on his face.
You don't have
none of that.
dolled up Connery?
Yeah,
in your book?
basically I took out all the good stuff from Highlander.
It still has a Queen soundtrack, though, right?
Okay. Well, definitely check out all of that. Couple of things we want to plug before we go. The show is free to come see and free to listen to, but it does cost us a little bit of money to do. If you want to support it, patreon.com/Comic Book Club. Also, we do a bunch of other podcasts, including Watchmen Watch, our Watchmen podcast that is now into recapping the HBO show. We have the
So
first.
good. We haven't even talked about the show on this show.
No, we haven't,
Watchmen
but
show.
it was pretty excellent.
Very good.
Yes. So we have a big recap of that up in the Watchmen Watch feed. Also, we're going to be exclusively rolling out only in the Watchmen Watch feed a bonus episode on Thursdays that's going to break down what's coming up, answer questions, etc. So that first episode will be launching there on Thursday. Riverdale After Dark, our Riverdale podcast, is also back. That rolls out Wednesdays after that show airs. Justin, what else do you want to plug?
Follow us on Twitter at Comic Book Live.
Check us out at comicbookclublive.com for this podcast and more. You can subscribe and comment on iTunes, Android, Spotify, Stitcher, or the app of your choice. A couple of people we want to thank before we go. We want to thank Koren for being on the show.
Yeah.
Boothman Prime.
Bootman Prime.
But most of all, we want to thank you all. We are here every single Tuesday, totally free. Please tell your friends. Good night.
Good night, guys. Thank you.
1, 2, 4, 2, 3, 4. Comic Book Club. 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 Come on, Comic Book Club. Comic Book Club. Nerds Big Club. Join Alex, Justin, and Tony Bucket. Every Tuesday night, once a week, that blow your